It's your number one station, RX Radio, and this is the Fatboy Show. Hey, how are you doing today? This is a beautiful Thursday. It is the 15th of December, 2022, and Christmas is 10 days away, which for some people will fill them with joy. For others, it will fill them with horror. I guess it depends on who you are and how you're feeling about the season. Of course, Olive has told us many times that she struggles with these mixed feelings of joy and of nervousness and of anxiety.
You know why? Because apart from the expenditure of Christmas, and please don't get me wrong, I love spending on my kids. But also you deep in your mind, you're like, okay, before I know it, it is back to school.
Oh, there's that.
It's a balancing act.
Oh, so when are the holidays ending? When are they going back to school?
The children are going back to school at the beginning of February. I think around February 6th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and
okay.
we know how there are 30 months in January.
January is just going to treat you so cruelly.
Oh, gosh. In the pockets, the weather, because it's usually very hot in January.
Oh, it
so
is,
it is scorching in your pockets and it is scorching weather-wise.
But best not to think about that right now.
Yeah.
Let's think about the merrymaking, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like our good friend and former presidential candidate Joseph Kabuleta might be able to enjoy his Christmas the way he deserves to, because he has been granted bail by the Magistrates Court at Nakawa. So he was ordered to pay 2 million shillings in cash, and each of his sureties have to sign a 20 million shillings non-cash bond. So you'll recall that he was arrested recently because apparently he failed to respond to the police summons about certain inappropriate remarks he'd made. Now, he's obviously a guy who gives very hot takes on some pressing and current issues, and we've had him on this show many times, and you've had him on your show too.
Yes.
And frequently as I listen to him, I'm like, this guy is brave. Like, he is not shy to make accusations and very direct statements.
And you know what I like about Kabuleta, unlike other political opponents to the president, he normally says things that feel like, because normally when you put him to the task of confirming whether he has done his research, he's like, Olive, put me to the task. I can prove these things. I've been on the ground. I've done ABCD. I've seen ABCD. Unlike other people who just say, we are removing a dictator.
Yeah, well, in spite of that, the police started an inquiry that began on June the 14th, and this was conducted by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, CID itself, to verify allegations that Joseph Kabuleta and others still at large had made utterances that were likely to create alienation or despondency, rise discontent or disaffection, promote feelings of ill will or hostility among members of the public, which I wonder, can't that be said for any statement?
Actually, this writer is trying to be civil or politically correct because the charges were against the people of, against the Banyakore and the Bahima. That is what exactly the case is all about.
Okay, so, and, you know, he does speak in those broad generalizations, and he's the kind of person who would say things like, yeah, the Bahima this and this and that and that and that. And, you know, when you're trying to discuss issues of national importance, it's usually advised to not use sweeping statements. And, you know, arguments can be made about which region dominates the power centers. That's a fair point. But I think in the way that the conversation is constructed, it gives room to people to accuse you of being sectarian.
I understand that, but what if in some instances it has been proven that a certain tribe or a certain group of people has certain have certain benefits, or they get certain favors because of where they come from? I'll take you back to the time before President Museveni became president, when Obote was president, and I remember his tribe at the time were the people that were referred to as the people that had the favors, or when President Amin was president.
I understand that, but isn't it a bit unfair? Because I think, and this is, I think, a problem that has plagued Africa. So because we are tribalistic by nature, whichever president assumes power, whether legitimately or otherwise, will typically staff the positions with his people, right? People from his area. It's usually how he or she feels safe in their seat and holding power. But then at the same time, it's just a clique within the wider group.
It doesn't mean the entire tribe. But you see, the line is that it is a thin line, right? Because yes, there may be Bahima occupying certain positions, or Banyakore, or people from the West generally. Because by the way, some people from other regions don't understand that the Western Uganda has different tribes. There are Banyakore, there are Bahima, there are Bakiga, and even others, that Banyaruguru, and some of these people we don't know. But the minute they say, oh, I come from a region in Western Uganda, we think, oh, you're the guys that are enjoying things.
Okay, let me put it to you this way. So imagine you're a Congolese now.
Yes.
And you are a resident of Eastern Congo, and your area has been ravaged by rebel forces, incursions by Ugandan troops, sometimes Ugandan troops seizing control of areas that are rich in minerals, exploiting the timber, exploiting gold and whatnot. And you're a Congolese, and over the years you've just kept hearing Ugandan army, Ugandan army, Ugandan army. Even I think was it the ICC or the UN that said we had to pay reparations to Congo. So it's not even a question. We were found guilty of stealing the wealth of the people of Congo.
Our army was there.
Now, my point is, imagine being a Congolese and sitting there and saying, oh, it's the Ugandans, Ugandans. Meanwhile, you here in Uganda, first of all, you didn't even know, for the most part, that your army was there. You weren't allowed to discuss it. And you certainly didn't partake of any of the benefits of those incursions.
But now you're being bundled
and yet the Congolese fella whose life has been ruined is there cursing Ugandans as a whole. Now, is it true the Ugandan army maybe did some damage in his area? Yes. But if you were to blame all Ugandans, wouldn't you be the first to say, hey, wait a minute, it had nothing to do with me? Or would you accept blame as a Ugandan?
No, I wouldn't accept blame, but I also understand that when our leaders take on certain responsibilities or are blamed for certain decisions, it unfortunately is going to disempower us. It is going to put us in a bad light. For instance, I've heard, especially during the Ukrainian war, where everyone is like, America wants to poke its nose in other people's business, and then it likes to start wars. But not all Americans are at par with the decisions of the reigning government regarding wars in different regions in the world.
That's true.
But
and
that's
some
look at them.
Some are even opposed to these wars, and they protest against their own presidents.
But
do you remember?
When we are talking about them, we are going to say the United States. It doesn't matter whether you're against or for.
So that's where it gets a bit tricky. And as you're aware, Kanye West right now is in a lot of hot soup for doing similar things with respect to the Jewish ethnicity, right? Where he's also making blanket statements about how he feels there's certain things happening in the world that he blames them for. And I'm of the view that these are nuanced conversations, as in it stems from somewhere. Obviously, someone could be observing the concentration of power within certain groups and certain people in sections of society. I think those are fair observations, but I think you have to be careful in specifically
how you make your thoughts heard, how you utter your thoughts.
Right. So I think, and especially when it comes to a place like Uganda, where the concentration of power is very narrow and within just some individuals, And I know now I sound like the people arguing with Kanye West, because they would say the same thing when he would say, oh, the Jews control music and the media and the banks and all of these things.
Yes.
Right? So maybe I'm being a hypocrite, but
you are.
But let's just say that in as far as the allegations against Kabuleta are concerned, okay, obviously he's now out on bail, so the case will be ongoing. Chances are, based on how the laws are written, I have a feeling they will probably find grounds to convict.
Well, if he's convicted, then he will have to serve about 5 years in jail for statements that he has made on different radio stations.
Unless his lawyers are able to get him out on a technicality, which a lot of these cases end up getting thrown out anyway.
And if you're an opponent, what I have realized in politics here in Uganda and even elsewhere in the world, apart from countries like Russia, where Putin doesn't care, he will throw you in jail for whatever reason, as long as you're his opponent. I feel like in Uganda, sometimes the president wants to look right, that some of these people will not actually languish in jail for so long. Though he's been in jail before, by the way, for some good time, where he says he claims to have been tortured before, but now he's out. And what I'm saying is that he may never be convicted of anything, because you do not want one of your loudest opponents to be in jail.
Why?
You won't look fair.
I mean, the president had no problem having Bessie J in and out of jail.
But he was never convicted. That's what I'm saying. Taking you to jail, remanding you spending some time in the coolers is different from when the judge says, because of you've been found guilty and you're going to serve this length of a sentence.
Now, for his part, I do believe that he does offer very substantive criticisms of the way the government affairs are conducted, about how the country is run, the mistakes of this government and their wrongdoings. I think he's very good at putting those points together and presenting them, and he is very articulate and always interesting to listen to.
The guy was a journalist.
Right.
He's such a prolific writer, and then of course he has been a pastor before and now a politician. When it comes to his eloquence, there is no doubt he can put his points forward and clearly, and compared to other political opponents like from other camps, I feel like if he is well supported, he could give the next presidential candidate from the NRM a good run for their money.
Perhaps, although he also makes statements that attack international institutions, and that may land him in their crosshairs.
But who hasn't?
Because
even Besigye has.
The remarks that you obviously know his position on COVID-19
yes,
and the vaccinations and the stuff like that. So I would think there are many Western institutions that would not be so excited to have a guy like that,
because they can't easily manipulate him.
Yeah.
But as a leader or someone who is seeking a leadership position, I feel like he's well leveled. He's an all-round person. He's not just going to jump onto a bandwagon of something just because the West is paying for it.
And interestingly, which region of the country is he from?
He's from Bunyoro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again,
so he's a Westerner.
But again, it's a very broad region with very different groups.
He's a Munyoro from not Hoima. I don't think it's Hoima, but around that area.
Well, the thing is, at the end of the day, what does this all matter? We're all Ugandans.
We are all Ugandans.
We're all struggling. We're all poor. We're all stressed. And I think ideally, let's just put our differences aside and just come together as a nation, regardless of which part you originated from.
Because when we step out of the borders of this country, we are all Ugandans. If you're in Germany and you run into a Ugandan, it won't matter. You will never even ask them, are you a Mganda? Are you a Mnyankole? Are you a Northerner? You just be like, oh, you're from Uganda. I'm from Uganda. My name is James. And that's it, right?
That's right. And so that's how it is. So maybe that's how we should look at it and hope we can build our country. So now that he's out on bail, congratulations to Joseph Kabuleta. He will get to enjoy his Christmas. I wonder if he's going to flee the country like Kakwenza. I doubt.
No, I don't think so.
This one is a fighter. He's gonna.
Yeah. Plus, we don't know. If his passport has been taken away. But speaking of Kakwenza, some people argue that Kakwenza actually intentionally, what do you call it? Antagonized the first son because he wanted reason to go into exile.
Really?
And now his kids, his wife joined him. Stella Nyanzi is out there. So for some of these guys, sometimes you're like, are they really?
His wife joined him?
Yes, and the 3 children.
It's funny because there were stories about how he was dating some white journalist.
Anne Whitehead.
Yeah. There are pictures of them together. I understand she may have even conceived.
Well, those were the allegations. I don't know how.
And then she came out to be so negative against the guy, attacking him,
saying he uses women and dumps them. But you see, if you sleep with a married man and you are of consensual age, you don't come out in the public and say, "Oh, he used me." First of all, he was married. What were you expecting?
It's funny how women are allowed to say that, but when men are used, we're not allowed to say anything. They just tell us who hurt you.
Guys, who uses you?
We are used.
How?
Perhaps. Okay. sometimes even sexually we're used.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. But mostly for status, for money, we're used.
Men only say they were sexually used if they have one encounter with a woman and she doesn't want to have sex with you again. If we have sex with you again, you will not say you were used. But men hate it when he has one moment with you and every time he wants to have another, you're like, I'm busy.
I've told you that story
was a
of
one-time thing.
I've told you the story of when I got ghosted by a chick who was basically taking a break from her boyfriend. And this is a warning to guys. When your chick says to you, I need space, let's just cool off for a bit. Let's just take time to think about things. Guess what she's doing? The very next day, she's going to be in another man's bed. And then, of course, if you're unaware of her situation and you just think, oh, well, hey, look, there's a new girl I'm seeing. And then 2 weeks later, she goes to you. Just know there was a boyfriend and she has gone back.
She was taking a break.
Men
take breaks from their women all the time. Men cheat on their wives all the time and sometimes go as far as siring kids with these other women all the time. But you guys, small chick having a kwanjula when you had Kuchala plans. And
you're still on that.
And you're running off like headless chicken. Who hurt you?
Men are being hurt every day, and one day the chicken will come home to roost. Is that the saying?
Yeah.
And you won't like it. But anyway, that's a story for another day. Okay, well, you're listening to the Fatboy Show on RX Radio. Stay tuned. More great music coming your way.